But as the utility is established and we move down that path of being able to identify, potential specific exemptions or moving specifics on impervious surface, we can get it down to a more exact science. But in order to set up the utility, become NPDES Phase 2 compliant and start the revenue stream to save those reserves for projects, capital costs for equipment and for labor, was essential to at least get it implemented. So.
Ron?
I disagree, John. The reason that I disagree that they're not totally sustainable. They have, if you went down there and watched the number of trucks and cars that go in and out of there on any given day, they're not totally sustainable. If everything that was accumulated on a truck or a car tire stayed on site, I might buy in on your product, on your idea. But they drive up and down 27th Street, the trucks go in throughout, they load them up, they take off and drive out down the freeway. So they're not totally sustainable. They are contributing to this stormwater.
I understand, but they are, this is a tax on ERU. It's not a tax on vehicles. It's not a tax on trucks.
But the whole basis was anybody else.
If we want to do that,
Actually-
we need to tax
actually-
the streets, we need to tax the roads.
With all due respect, the ERU does include a percentage of city streets. It was designed that way.
It's always been identified
Yeah,
that way.
that an ERU, an effective residential unit, does include the relative portion of the city's impervious surface.
Well, I look at this business and I look at what they have done, the millions of dollars they have placed into cleaning this water. And we are looking at ways that businesses can be able to create jobs, be able to have more money, be able to expand. They have 30 employees who live in the city of Washougal. Okay, they pay property taxes of $36,000 a year. They pay in water to the city $11,000, sewer $2,000, building permits over $3,000, and business licenses in the hundreds. This is a company that is giving to this community a lot.
And $100,000 to run the system.
And $100,000 to run the system. This is injustice. And what we're looking at is a way that we can tax and use them as a cash cow rather than implementing the true purpose of this program. And I think it's not a good deal for business.
Let me ask this. I know that the port has huge pumps which they use to pump water up over the dike. Do they have their own permit to do that?
To pump to the Columbia River?
Yeah.
It's a good question.
Actually, I know that they have permits from the Corps of Engineers. I don't know about DOE.
To discharge, I don't know if they specifically have an outfall. I think depending on the river level and Gibbons Creek, as far as the water levels, because at some point they can actually gravity feed and not pump. So I don't know if they specifically have an NPDES permit, but obviously they're within compliance to be able to pump, otherwise they wouldn't be.
Right, but my question was really, are they, if we exempt exterior wood, are we going to have to exempt the port?
Right, there'd have to be.
Which would mean the collapse of the finances of the system.
Yeah, there would have to be, if you were going to consider that option to have a further exemption or discount, it would have to be drafted in a way where it was specific to that industry or business, not to exclude anybody else, considering the Pendletons and Saint-Gobains and fiber webs, but there would have to be specific verbiage in there that would reference.
Difference on them that they don't have the direct outfall to the river though.
Right.
And that is the difference.
And do we have any sense at all of, I mean, their process is basically using chromated copper arsenate to, as a wood preservative. Copper is kind of lightly poisonous. Chromium is significantly poisonous, and arsenic, of course, is a major environmental toxin. Do we have any sense at all of what washes off of their product as they're driving down the street?
Isn't it all recaptured, Trevor, and washed through their system?
I don't know if
Not if
they-
they're driving down the street with wood on the truck and it's raining.
That'd be a technical question, I think, for exterior wood, but I think they have pre-wash before it can actually go on the road.
Okay.
But I
Are
could,
you gonna tax me because of the salt that I sweat when I walk in the rain?
Molly?
Actually, I take John's argument in this, and I think I've been partially swayed when that representative from Exterior Wood, who's come several times, the last time he came to a council meeting, they've always been respectful and brought a lot of data and information to us. And I really do think that if we are looking at this as really a way to have pure water going back into the into nature, into the, you know, into the waterways, that they've gone the extra mile to make that happen. So they have more than fully complied with the intent of the law. I do struggle with that issue of if we take that funding, you know, out of our numbers, who makes up for that? Do we tax somebody higher, or do we push projects out farther? So that is an issue I have, but it just
Well, let me-
seems clear
yeah.
that they have truly not tried to skinny under the wire or get by the regulations, but they have truly met the, you know,
Let me throw a couple things out that kind of
Mhm.
give you a little, what I think would be a little clarity to that. I would make the argument that it was injustice that they were involved in the beginning, to begin with, in tax for the first year, okay? Had we designed the plan around them not even being a part of it to begin with, we would have set the rate according to that model. But they were willing to go along with what we had passed, endure it for a year, let us get our feet under the ground, and now they're, you know, now it's a request that, hey, listen, we've been complying and we take care of this water, we push it out. I think they had even approached the city about not pushing it out into Columbia and letting them drip it into ours, or push it into our system, and they were told they could not.
at that point, they approached the city about discharging to the wastewater plant.
Right.
And with their flows, and I don't know what their flow load is right now with their process, but that's obviously a lot of impact on the heels of our facility planning, gobbles up quite a bit of capacity,
Right.
since it is
Even if it's already clean.
So
a
they're-
rainwater rather than a sanitary
They're
sewer.
kind of really saving us money anyway by not doing that. I mean, because it's gotta be an either-or thing. Either we give them a full exemption, or we allow them to dump into our system. So, I mean, it really has to be an either-or thing, because if it's not, then it's about them having money that we want access to, and it's not just.
Well, $13,296 in their total budget isn't very much. $13,296 in our budget for this isn't very much. And then, and not only that, but then we open the door for anyone else that wants to come in and collect their rainwater off of their house, or all of those things that come in, and then you can't, then they want to exempt out of this too. So we're gonna readjust this budget over and over and over.
I don't think you understand what they do, Rod. What they do for the 50% exemption, the same thing Pendleton does. It's the same thing that other, the port does. They have a permit process to purify and clean the water. The difference is the millions that they have invested in taking that water and then pushing it out into the Columbia River to be discharged.